everyone. Welcome back to Full Spectrum Frontiers. I'm your host, Bennett Tanton. Now I want to paint a picture for you, and I don't need to stretch the canvas too far. Imagine this. You're in a fight that might last longer than you thought. You reach for ammo, more supplies, maybe even a few reinforcements. But there's a problem. You're out. Not because you didn't know the fight was coming, but because you assumed someone else would be ready for you. That's where we are right now. Today, we're cracking open one of the most important and least sexy topics in national security. The defense industrial base. Yeah, I know. It doesn't sound as thrilling as talking stealth bombers or special operations raids. But here's the deal. Without factories, without shipyards, without workers and welders and suppliers, all the strategy in the world collapses under the weight of not enough. Not enough bombs, not enough ships, not enough time. We've reached a dangerous place. The United States, once the arsenal of democracy, is running into walls we built ourselves. Years of outsourcing, stop-start funding, and global gridlock have turned what should be a wartime-ready engine into a fragile, rusting machine. And the truth is, we're not going to win the next big fight with hope and spreadsheets. But here's where we pivot from doom to duty. We can fix this. This episode isn't about sounding the alarm and walking away. It's about shining the light where we've let it go dark and figuring out what we can do together to turn the tide. We're going to hit 3 big ideas today. How we ran down the arsenal and what that means for our future conflict. Why our shipyards are falling behind while China builds fleets like it's a Costco clearance sale. And finally, how we claw our way back to readiness with commitment, consistency, and a little thing called industrial courage. So buckle up, because today's episode isn't about fear, it's about foresight. And if we play our cards right, we might just rebuild the American arsenal before the next punch lands. If you enjoy the show and it makes you think, even just a little, please take 5 seconds, like, share, and review Full Spectrum Frontiers. That's how we grow. That's how we get the message out. And Lord knows, more people need to hear it. Now, are you ready to get into it? Let's start with segment 1, and we're going to talk about munitions in the red. So let's start with the basics. War is won with bullets, bombs, and bandwidth. And right now we're low on all 3. America has always been the country that showed up late to the war, but shows up with everything. Think Normandy. Think the Persian Gulf. We didn't just bring soldiers, we brought the factories, the convoys, the logistics, the massive conveyor belt of war-making stuff that overwhelmed our enemies. That was the arsenal of democracy. But here's what's changed. We got comfortable, real comfortable, and we outsourced the one thing we never outsourced in a real fight, your ability to fight. Cold, hard numbers. Let's talk munitions first. Since the Ukraine war kicked off, the U.S. has sent more than 2 million 155 millimeter artillery rounds to support Ukrainian forces. That's good. That's what allies do. But here's the problem. We were producing about 14,000 of those shells per month at the start of that war. 14,000. At the height of World War II, we were pushing out 40,000 a day in certain ammo classes. That's not a typo. 40,000 a day. And when the Ukraine war started draining our resources faster than we could replace them, Suddenly, everyone in the Pentagon started asking the same question. Where the hell did our surge capability go? Well, we let it die. Death by 1,000 CRs. One of the biggest culprits here is our budget culture. We've been operating under continuing resolutions, short-term funding patches so long that it's become normal. But for the defense industry, it's chaos. Imagine trying to build a long-term production line when Congress can't promise funding past next Tuesday. It's like building a house when your client says, let's do one room at a time. Maybe. Then sprinkle in just the just-in-time supply chain model that big corporations love, and it's great for saving money, terrible for fighting a war. We've hollowed out our stockpiles to save pennies, assuming peace would last forever. Spoiler, it won't. And when the world started watching, the war in Ukraine was a wake-up call. Now, not just for us, but for the world. Adversaries are watching. China is taking notes. They see our anemic ammo output, our reliance on suppliers in foreign countries, our inability to scale fast. They're not intimidated. Even some of our allies have been sounding the alarm. NATO commanders have warned that if the U.S. entered a high-intensity conflict tomorrow, say a shutdown in the Taiwan Strait, we'd run out of key munitions in weeks, not years, weeks. That's just unacceptable. The missing ingredient, industrial courage. Now, here's where the optimism comes in, because this isn't a technology problem. We don't need to invent some new sci-fi railgun to fix this. We need commitment, multi-year contracts, predictable procurement schedules, long-term investment in skilled trades. This is about building a bench again, not just of weapons, but of workers, welders, machinists, logisticians, and that's a word. People who can make stuff that blows up the bad guys and saves the good ones. And yes, some of that means reshoring. We've got to bring key manufacturing back home. No one wants to be in a shooting war while waiting for a shipment of ball bearings from across the Pacific. This is the work. It's not glamorous. It's not high tech, but it's essential, because in the next big fight, the winner won't be the side with the flashiest drone. It'll be the one that still has bullets after the third month. That's the picture on munitions. And it's a sobering one, but fixable. If we stop treating war production like it's optional, then we'll be okay. All right. If the munitions story has you raising your eyebrows, this next part might make your jaw hit the floor, because when it comes to shipbuilding, we're not just behind. We're coasting on fumes and faded glory. The U.S. Navy likes to remind the world that it's the most powerful fleet sailing today. But here's the hard truth. It's mostly legacy talk. We've got a fleet that's aging faster than we can replace it. And in the maritime fight, especially one in the Pacific, ships are not a nice to have. They are everything. A shocking math problem. Let's get right to the numbers. And in 1985, the United States had 17 major shipyards capable of building large naval vessels. Today, we are down to 7. That's not just a reduction. That's a collapse. Meanwhile, China has more than 30 shipyards, many of which are state subsidized and pumping out ships like it's their national hobby. They've surpassed the U.S. Navy in sheer numbers of ships, and while we still have the edge in quality and power projection, that gap is shrinking, and it's shrinking fast. They're building warships and Coast Guard cutters with an efficiency that feels almost surreal. Think high-speed assembly lines with national pride on the line. Meanwhile, we've got dry docks that date back to World War II and can't even accommodate modern vessels without major upgrades. Workforce woes. How about that? And then there's the workforce. Skilled shipbuilders are retiring, and the new blood isn't flowing in. The average age of many yards is creeping into the 50s. Welding is being replaced by, no one. Because we stopped treating those jobs as strategic national assets. You can't build a 21st century fleet with a 20th century workforce, or with a hiring pool that doesn't exist. And it's not just about people. The supply chain for every basic part, everything from valves to advanced radar systems, is stretched thin, scattered across subcontractors who are themselves barely hanging on. And in some cases, they're one supplier left making a critical component. One, you lose them and you're in the dark. Now let's talk about the ships we do have, or the ones we think we have. It's common for the Navy's fleet numbers to include ships that are in dry dock, undergoing repair, or simply non-deployable. On paper, we've got a fleet. In reality, a good chunk of it is either aging out, not really aged out, but aging out, or floating in maintenance limbo. That's like saying you've got 10 cars, but 4 are up on cinder blocks. 2 have blown engines, and the rest are due for inspection. Not exactly confidence-inspiring, right? Even the new platforms we're building, like the Ford-class carriers and the littoral combat ships, have had delays, budget overruns, and serious questions about their mission effectiveness. We're spending billions to field platforms that might not be ready for the kind of gritty, no-warning fight that we face in the Taiwan Strait scenario. Here's the bigger issue. We spent the last 2 decades laser focused on counterinsurgency, not great power of conflict. That's like training for a marathon by practicing sprints. Different tempo, different muscles. We got caught flat-footed, bottom line. And now we're trying to rebuild maritime dominance without the tools, the workers, or the will to commit to a long game. China's Navy? It's not just growing, it's rehearsing. They've got war games, joint operations, and expansion in the South China Sea that makes it very clear they're building for a fight. Meanwhile, we're debating whether to fund dry dock renovations. It's just like watching the house catch fire and asking if the hose budget can wait until next year. So what do we do? First, stop lying to ourselves about what we have. Let's audit the fleet honestly. What's deployable? What's junkyard material? Let's be real. Second, we need to rebuild the shipbuilding base, not just with cash, but with vision. That means investing in vocational training, automation, domestic suppliers, and long-term contracts that signal stability. No yard can hire and train people when they don't know if they'll have work next year. And finally, we have to treat shipbuilding like national defense, because it is. This isn't just economics or pork barrel policies. This is about keeping sea lanes open, allies protected, and adversaries in check. We've been here before. And in the lead up to World War II, America ramped up shipbuilding at a historic pace because we had to. That same urgency needs to be rekindled now before it's too late. That's where we are with shipbuilding. A fleet stretched thin, an industrial base on life support, but not beyond saving. So far, we've laid out the grim, but honest picture. We've got munition stockpiles that can't meet demand, shipyards that look like museum pieces, and a workforce pipeline that's more drip than flow. But now comes the good part, the actionable part. The segment is about what it takes to rearm America, not just with steel and firepower, but with strategy, stability, and spine. Because here's the truth. We don't need to invent a miracle. We just need to stop self-sabotaging ourselves. Step 1, multi-year contracts or bust. Let's start with this phrase, multi-year procurement. It sounds boring, I know, but it's the beating heart of rebuilding the defense industrial base. Right now, most defense programs operate on year-to-year funding. That's like asking a construction company to build a skyscraper, but only give them a budget one floor at a time, right? One room at a time for a house. That doesn't work. When contractors get multi-year deals, they invest, they hire, they scale up production. They know the government is in for the long haul and they act like it. You better get pricing, faster delivery, and surprise actual preparedness. The Navy's submarine program recently got a multi-year contract for Virginia-class boats. The result? Faster timelines and cost savings. Same thing could apply to ammo, to ground vehicles, to radars, you name it. It's not revolutionary. It's just smart. Step 2, treat the industrial base like a weapon system. We wouldn't send a soldier to war without training or gear. So why do we treat welders, machinists, and system engineers like they're replaceable? We need to elevate the defense workforce to the same tier of strategic importance we give to F-35 pilots or cyber operators. That means funding vocational programs, incentivizing trades, and bringing patriotism back into the trades. It's not just about pay, it's about purpose. There's a whole generation out there that wants to build something real. We just need to give them the path. And let's be honest, not everyone needs to go to college to make a difference. Some people just need a torch, a welder's mask, and a mission. So step 3, reshore or regret it. The phrase made in America isn't a bumper sticker. It's a warning label to adversaries. Right now, we rely heavily on foreign sources for critical components, like rare earth minerals, semiconductors, and basic mechanical parts. In a crisis, those supply chains evaporate. We've already dealt with this. Reshoring production, especially for key materials and subsystems, shouldn't be controversial. It's insurance. And yeah, it might cost more up front, but what's the price tag on national survival? Let's not learn the hard way, okay? Step 4, bipartisan backbone. Finally, we need leadership that treats national security as a nonpartisan priority. This isn't about red or blue. It's about red, white, and blue, okay? Every administration, left, right, or freaking upside down, needs to commit to sustaining defense investments over time. Not just when the polls are looking scary, not just after a balloon crosses the continent or a port gets choked off, but now, consistently, predictably. You know who does this well? It's weird. China. They're playing a 100-year game. We're lucky to get 12 months of coherent funding in this country. It's time to get serious about this. That starts with Congress and the White House treating the industrial base not as a bill to pay, but as a foundation to defend. This is still our game to win. Listen, the U.S. still has unmatched innovation, world-class engineers, and the best damn warfighters on the planet. But you can't win with spirit alone. You need the steel to back that up, the grit, the production muscle, the infrastructure. We've been reactive for too long. It's time to get proactive. Because here's what keeps me up at night. The next conflict won't give us a 5-year warning. It'll show up fast, like a thief in the night. And when that happens, we'll either be ready or we won't. But here's what gives me hope. We have done this before, and we can do it again. All we need is the will. Okay, that's it for today's episode of Full Spectrum Frontiers. We covered a lot. We peeled back the curtain on the state of our munitions stockpiles, walked through the slow decay of American shipbuilding, and laid out a real path forward. Not pie in the sky wishful thinking, not solid, but solid. Boots on the ground action steps. And look, I know this stuff can feel heavy, but I want you to walk away from this episode with a sense of agency, not anxiety. Because the real danger isn't that we're too far gone. It's that we've forgotten how much we can do when we commit. America's always been at its best when it builds, when it creates, and when it prepares. Not just for war, but for peace, through strength. And if we want to preserve this nation, its ideals, and its future, we've got to rearm our minds as much as our arsenals. That means staying informed, speaking up, supporting policies that bring manufacturing home and investing in the trades. And if you're a parent, encourage your kid to consider a welding torch or a CNC machine alongside a college app. If you're in industry, push for long-term solutions instead of short-term wins. And if you're listening to this show, you are part of the solution. So I want to ask you a favor. If this episode sparked something, if it gave you insight, if it made you nod, even if it ticked you off, but got you thinking, please share, please like, and leave a review. That's how the show grows. That's how these conversations ripple out beyond this mic. We are living through the early pages of the next great chapter of American resilience or American decline. The choice isn't theoretical. It's made because every day in budget rooms, welding bays, and policy briefings, let's choose wisely. Let's choose strength. Let's choose to rebuild what we've let erode. My name is Bennett Tanton, signing off from Full Spectrum Frontiers. Until next time, stand ready, stay sharp, and never forget that the front lines aren't always over there. Sometimes they're right here at home.
In the fiercest battle, I'll defend you from all these arrows, and the sword I wield will keep you from danger. Let me be your shield.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just you, me, and the odds. We stuck together, we two peas in a pod. You dealt a bad hand, I'm there seizing the cards. We'll never be separated till we see in the gods. We've been low together, high forever. Long as we go together, we'll die whenever. Be a light, couldn't let the darkness try you ever. Truth in my word, you I lie to never. And when the world gets a little too hard, wipe your eyes, put away your sorrow. When it's war, I'll be leading the charge, and I'll be still fighting for you tomorrow. Yeah, even with a blindfold or in different time zones, could find my way to you with my eyes closed. There's nothing between us. Go to Mars and Venus, stand in front of every one of them rocks they slinging and be a shield. Yeah.
In the fiercest battle, I'll defend you from all these arrows, and the sword I will keep you from danger. Let me be your shield.
Yeah, let's go. Let me be your shield, let me be your shield.
burning